Hello everyone. Hello everyone. You are someone and I'm someone else. And today, I'm in my car, as you could tell, based on the air conditioning sound or heating sound, whatever, right? Ready to go to work. But anyway, that's besides the point. Besides the fact I'm wearing my work vest, I want to talk to you guys today about natural rights. And there are three fundamental natural rights, and socialism always violates those natural rights of humanity. The first natural right is the right to speak whatever you want. Nature's not automatically going to kill you for speaking your mind. Yes, there could be an animal that hears your sounds and could kill you. So you do have the potential of dying over your speech. But that being said, that is a natural right that is given to you because you have a voice. You have evolved somehow to get a voice. So therefore, that is a natural right. Some people say a God-given right, but I don't like to use the God phrase. I think natural is a better term. But yes, natural right. Right? The gods may have given you the voice, whatever. But in my opinion, you have evolved a voice, so it's better. Okay, second thing, you have the right to your labor. Let's say you build a cabin on a deserted island or even in the forest, right? Nature's not automatically going to destroy that cabin. It's not something that's institutionalized in a way that a government is, right? A government could tax it and could take it away, right? It's a natural thing that a product of your labor, you're entitled to whatever you find on the ground, a diamond that you find on the ground. I mean, you have a natural right to property in your labor. So you need the capital in order to have that land in the first place, at least in our society, because the banks own most of the land. Multiple banks own multiple land. Then you could sign a deal with another bank saying, okay, I want to buy that piece of land. You sign a mortgage company, you sign a brokerage with that mortgage company, and the other bank now owns the land. You sold that property to another bank, and now you have to pay down that loan or to fully own that property. But in nature, you just find land, virgin land, I should say, and you basically can control it. It's, throughout human history, people have died over just pieces of land. Crazy, right? So that is your second thing. You have natural right to your land and your labor. And it's like, that's why healthcare and food isn't right. Because I can't just steal someone's food. I can't just steal someone's medical knowledge. I'm like, oh, doctor, you're entitled to treat me over everybody else. I don't have a natural right to healthcare. You know what I mean? You do have a natural right to your own labor. If you are a doctor, you should get paid for that labor. I mean, if you don't, then that person's not going to be your customer again. That's going to be the deal you make with your customer. It's kind of sad that people can afford healthcare, but is it really the doctor's fault? No, maybe it's more the institution's fault. Maybe we should get government out of healthcare. That's besides the point. Whatever, right? You look at France, it's starting to get really, really bad now. Like, government-ran healthcare is not working as well as it used to. Okay. Third natural right, right to protection of your labor. Right? This is something that the Cuban communists did. The Cuban communists, they call themselves communists. They were controlled by a communist party, but they were a socialist state. Yeah, remember, communism has never fully been achieved. It's only the theory that people believe in that has been realized, but never really fully achieved. And so the Communist Party of Cuba took everyone's freaking guns away. How are you supposed to protect your own labor if you can't do that without guns are like a natural way to protect labor. Anytime a government institutes a gun registry, it's only a sign of gun control in the future. You look at what the Nazis did. They had a gun registry. Austria instituted one. And when Austria got invaded, guess what? They used that gun registry to take away every gun of non-German citizens. And anyone who didn't join the military, the German military in Austria, they got their guns taken away. Pretty obvious, right? If the guns weren't nationalized or racified into the state, they weren't put into the state, nationalized, then they wouldn't actually be National Socialist guns and they need to be destroyed. But anyway, that's besides the point, right? That is besides the point. Disarming a populace is generally a good way to control them. Gun control will work. So those are your three natural rights. The rights to speak on a desert island, the right to build up trenches on the desert island, and the right to protect those trenches on the desert island. Those are your natural rights, I should say. Right to labor, right to speak on behalf of that labor, and right to protect that labor. Yes, can a natural disaster destroy all of those? Can it destroy your guns or your weapons? Yes, absolutely. A natural disaster could destroy your weapons. Can a natural disaster destroy your home on the desert island? Yes, it can. Can a natural disaster kill you and prohibiting you from speaking? Absolutely. Can an animal kill you for you speaking? Yeah, absolutely. But those are fundamentally, there's really nothing, nature has given you those abilities, the ability to labor, speaking, and protection of the labor. They have given you that. And so we should do everything in our power to make Surdet's Shrine into a constitution. The problem is socialists disagree with those natural rights because they don't really value the value of labor. Yes, they do. They talk about the labor theory of value. Technically, yes, they do. They value labor. However, they do not value the property aspect of labor. They do not value the fact that you'd put in the capital too. In order for that land to be useful, you need to put in capital goods. And that is something that socialists do not understand. Labor theory of value is partially correct, slightly correct. It's not all of it, though. Why is a diamond that's dug up on the ground the same thing as a diamond that's found on the ground? Why are they both $10,000 or whatever? Let's just say that hypothetically they're a rare breed of diamond or whatever, right? You got one diamond, some guy digged it up out of the ground, one guy just found it on the ground. They're virtually the same. Did the customer really care where it came from? Are they going to pay the same for the diamond? Labor theory of value doesn't make any sense. If it was all just labor, right, why are diamonds worth they are? They don't produce anything. Diamonds are not inherently useful. Bottles of water are more useful than them. I mean, you can't really trade them as with diamonds, but why is a gold bar worth more than a bottle of water? I don't know these questions, right? Right, subjective theory of value, which is the Austrian school, and I semi agree with it. I believe that there's three things I think that go into value. I could be wrong, but the customer demands, which is probably 90% of what value is, what labor has or what labor does. Okay, labor theory of value. Okay, partially correct. And capital good, what goes into the capital goods? The end product is the labor and the capital goods, but really the usefulness is the trade of it. So you really are missing that third party. Yes, there's a laborer and an employer, but you're missing that third party, which is the consumer. And socialists, they talk about, me as a consumer, I deserve free healthcare. Everyone does. Everyone's a consumer, so we should centralize it. And maybe that's not a terrible idea, right? Inherently, centralized healthcare is not a terrible idea, necessarily, right? But here's what I'm gonna say about that, about like universal healthcare or whatever, right? That if everyone gets it, right? Like in some countries, like in the United Kingdom, healthcare is so bad they go to the private option. Anyway, that's besides the point. With healthcare, I need to talk more about healthcare. I don't really know a whole lot about it, but I believe that our system is slightly better than other countries because you look at even Canadians move across the border to get our healthcare. There is something about our healthcare that people want. Not every healthcare system is good. Like Mexico has pretty good healthcare, but because they have less restrictions on their medicine, on their licensing, so it's actually cheaper for average American to get healthcare in Mexico than it is in Canada. Canada, you're waiting forever, so the waiting time is so high that you're probably gonna die before you even get the chance to get the healthcare. That's the thing. Am I entitled to, or like food, for instance? Okay, am I entitled to the labor of a farmer? Am I entitled to that farmer's labor by taking food away from them? If the food is communally owned, right? And if food is a human right, which people say it is, and I totally disagree, but let's say food is a human right, right? And I take someone's food. Yes, food is it's a necessity to survive, right? That I do believe in that. Yes, everyone does. But it's not a human right, because if it is, then I didn't just forcefully take someone else's food. They don't have the right to their labor anymore. So as a socialist, they're hypocrites. You can't have one or the other. You either everyone owns the food, or the farmer has an entitlement to their labor. You've automatically messed up your value system. Who is more important in that scale frame? And yes, sometimes the farmers are working on, most of the time anyway, are working on, Bill Gates's farm or somebody else's farm, right? They don't own the food that's on there, but they should have, in some regard, some food that they farmed. They should be able to trade in their wages to for better food if they wanted to, right? So I mean, trade has always increased. Whenever trade increases, it creates a better society than it ever was. It's better to have voluntarism, even if it's uneven, right? Than to forcefully tax someone. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm always mostly against government. I'm against government-run schools. I think schools should be private, and there should be private vouchers for people who can't afford it, because I don't want an educated system. I like the way Sweden does things. I don't like their preschool system. I think their preschool system sucks. But Sweden's main K through 9th system, because I don't care about 10th through 12th. They're sucky grades, right? K through 9th, though, we could do that. I think that would be perfectly fine. Let's do like 10 years of schooling all the way till 9th grade. We're good, right? Like, again, that would keep intact the natural rights by also giving private vouchers to people who are poor, and not really punishing anybody, hopefully, for having too much money. Like, I don't want to punish people for producing more than, or trading more than the average person. Like, Jeff Bezos' company creates way more transactions and way more jobs than other people's labor or other people's theory. Did Jeff Bezos work billions of times harder than I did? No. But he scaled up more than I have ever done. His business has scaled up, creating who knows how many jobs across the world. Probably 2 million, maybe even more. There might be even more jobs that have been traded throughout time since he's been around that have created his semi public empire. And am I against public stock? I'd say kind of. I'm not say okay with the public stock market because it's all voluntary. However, what I have a problem is cronyism, government going in, and again, this actually will violate natural rights eventually. Taxing citizens, which is your right to your labor, taxing citizens to help Amazon or to help another big corporation. That's not capitalism. That's government. That's socialism. That's the third way. It's called fascism, which is what Mona Lisa said. He said, we are corporatists. We are not socialists. We're not capitalists. We're the new third way. That's what the Mona Lisa said, and that's what we are today, Keynesian. We're Keynesian. We're actually kind of the British fascist kind of government system. Not entirely, anyway. But there's no extreme punishment like fascism. Fascism, the companies that they don't agree with have extreme punishment. Like, it could be a death penalty for people who run those businesses. So they believe in extreme responsibility, and they believe that the citizen and his warrior are basically the classes are merged together. That's what a fascist believes. But a Keynesian doesn't really believe that because it's not as political. It's more just economic. So Keynesianism and fascism are not the same, and I hate when Austrians compare the two because fascism has a lot more in it, at least Italian fascism, than British Keynesianism. There's always something different about them. And again, we are a British Keynesian, we're inspired off the main policymaker of John Markin Keynes, the economist John Markin Keynes. I disagree with John Markin Keynes. I agree with John Markin Keynes on a few things, but overall, I think he's not a very good economist. He doesn't really follow exactly what makes that's not really voluntary to have a centralized bank controlling interest rates. That's not really voluntary. I mean, yes, there's some bankers involved in that. 30 different representatives in the Federal Reserve System that are not elected, but they're bankers. They're elected by their shareholders. But you know what I mean? It's not representative of the huge population, and I don't know how a centralized bank could ever really think that it has an effect on the economy, but I don't think it's a good effect. That's what most Austrians believe, and that's what I believe. I'm not an Austrian, but if I was an Austrian, I'm more of a Chicagoan, I'm more of a moderist, or whatever the term is, when the government owns the money, but they only have the inflation rate up to the production rate, right? So they should never really control inflation. It should always be in the hands of the market, kind of. That's what I believe, but although government money is always going to lead to corrupt things anyway, so I am in the Austrian camp when it comes to that. But yeah, again, the Austrians believe in the natural rights, and they believe in the voluntarism, and they believe in all this stuff. They believe in the non-aggressive principle. Like slavery is against the non-aggressive principle, right? If you're enslaving someone, they don't actually own their body, and that is against Austrian economics. That's against against like what natural rights are. So again, like the founding fathers, like what is his name, Patrick Henry, or Henry Patrick, or whatever his name was, right? He's one of my favorite guys because he really goes into what natural rights are. You should really read the Anti-Federalist Papers by him. Absolutely amazing. I wish people would have read the Anti-Federalist Papers more. I absolutely love the Anti-Federalist Papers. I wish people would just stop and question the Constitution a little bit. In order to form a more perfect union, are they forcing that union on you if you didn't vote for it? I guess they are. I mean, yes, we should always follow the law, but if the law is generations and we disagree with it, let's say it's generations down the line, we disagree with the law. Fundamentally, it should be changed. Like the drug law, there's a federal drug law against weed. Yet the state I lived in has legalized it. Yeah, it's not illegal here to smoke weed, but it's illegal to smoke weed in, let's say, I don't know, Pennsylvania or Virginia, right? You could go to jail for that. It's a federal law that some states have legalized, which means, are we really a country if we don't even follow our own federal law? That's something to really think about. But the states have a lot of power. Both the state and the federal government controls the crime law. It's not really unified by either state or federal level. So, I mean, that's kind of interesting, right? And I could argue that one state could violate the natural rights of a citizen, and then their state doesn't. Like, can abortion be considered a natural right? I think so, a little bit. While I disagree, I don't know if the woman or the fetus has more rights. That's a debate that people have. Can abortion be considered a natural right? I mean, kind of. You have the right to do what you want with your body. But at the same time, I feel like the fetus, even though they're not conscious, once they're 11 weeks, they feel pain like a normal human being. It's painful for any fetus to go through an abortion. I mean, you look at the way they either do the injection, which is really bad. Like, imagine you did the injection, you would just have a major stroke and die, or the suction cup. I'm going off topic really bad about natural rights, but basically, socialists don't respect natural rights. They don't respect. You see all the gun control with the Democrats or whatever they're called. I don't really care. I really don't care. Democrats or whatever. You see them again talking about unions, but unions naturally will violate eventually, especially teacher unions, will violate the non-aggressive principle because they rely on tax dollars, which is involuntary. You look at throughout time, you look at Argentina. That is the result of what Argentina did. They taxed everybody to pay for their teachers. Now they're at 100% inflation rate. That is Keynesianism to its extreme. The fact that they care more about government employees than their own citizens is kind of sad. But anyway, that's besides the point. You are someone, I am someone else, talking about natural rights. I wanted to go more in detail about New Mexico and California, but I'm not going to this time. But I will talk about them. I will talk about them because I am very disappointed in them. The governors of New Mexico and California should be ashamed of themselves. Goodbye.